Welcome back to another episode of Life Lessons Unscripted. Today with me I have Lainey Lipson. Lainey Lipson is a former actress turned casting director who started her vibrant career at a young age. She initially trained in acting in Los Angeles and went on to be cast in numerous TV shows, films, web series, commercials, and animations. She appeared on notable TV shows like Nickelodeon's Victorious, ABC's The Rookie, and Comedy Central's Review. She also played series regular roles on 25 episodes of AwesomenessTV, the Nickelodeon sketch comedy show, and in 58 episodes of MyMusic, the YouTube premium sitcom that has accumulated around 100 million views and was nominated for multiple awards. Since stepping away from acting, Lainey has transitioned to a career in casting and has worked with numerous casting directors on notable films and TV series. Her first encounter with casting was assisting on a few episodes of Disney and Nickelodeon shows, which sparked her interest to continue. She then began as a full-time casting assistant, working on projects like Prime Video's Them, Apple TV's For All Mankind, Showtime's Yellowjackets, Apple TV's Invasion, and Fox's The Cleaning Lady. From then, she became, back up. From there, she became a casting associate on projects like Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan on Prime Video, The Nun II, and Hulu's Black Cake. Most recently, she worked as the casting associate director on feature films such as Sony's 28 Years Later and the sequel, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which is set to release in 2026, The Bitter End, and 13 Days, 13 Nights. Lainey is currently based in England, where she received her Bachelor of Arts in Film Production with specialization in directing. I'm so thrilled to welcome Lainey to speak with us today on Life Lessons Unscripted. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Lainey Lipson.
Well, you made me blush. My face is gone already. That introduction is very amazing that you've put together, so thank you very much. But yes, hello everyone. This is me. And yes, I'm living in England, so it's kind of a funny thing being across the world right now speaking to Lisa.
Do they actually, in Britain, do they actually hold up their teacups with the pinkies out? Do they actually do that?
You know, if you want to be really, really posh, yes, people can do that, absolutely. But I mean, I don't really see it much just happening in a cafe somewhere. But maybe if someone's going to a high tea or something.
I broke this finger like twice, I think. Like it's the only thing I've ever broken was this one. And I, ever since I had this like splint I would put on it and I would write like this, just like I would do everything with my pinky out. And ever since, I don't know why, I have this habit of just sticking my pinky out, doing everything, like sipping my tea, writing, like it's usually with the cups and like eating pizza. I sometimes do this. It's like,
Oh my gosh, what do you fit in right away with like all the posh people over here? So there you go.
yeah, Bridgerton except in like 2025. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you have a lot to be proud of with your entire career and just an amazing human being you are. Like, wow.
Thanks so much. Oh, well, it's been a whirlwind, especially coming from acting into casting. I feel like that was a huge transition for me into kind of looking at everything a bit differently, but it's also helped really inform everything that I do with casting. It's made me a lot more empathetic toward actors. It's made me feel a lot more connected to the whole process of casting as well, seeing it from so many different angles and just being able to really kind of dive deeply into it in another country has been fascinating too, just to see how things are done differently and similarly to the US. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah, for sure. And you've seen the world. So I'm curious actually. So you mentioned you began as an actress before becoming a casting director. How did that career, begin? Many actors have that talent, but there's also like a certain point where some decide like, hey, I want to pursue that professionally.
Yeah, so I always, always, always wanted to act. I begged my parents when I was little to just let me do something. I wanted to do classes. I wanted to just get involved. And finally, when I got into my later teenage years, they said to me, okay, fine, like you're getting close to, middle of high school. You're able to now just go off and start to do some things. But I had to put together a literal PowerPoint presentation to convince them to allow me to do things. I looked up all these classes that were local in San Diego. I looked looked up classes that were in Los Angeles. I really did my research. And that way I started training and I just kept training and training. I got really involved with the industry, got an agent, got a manager, started auditioning. And from there, yeah, I was fully enveloped in the industry. So probably since the age of 15, I've been in the industry, which is a pretty crazy thing to think about now. But yeah, from there, basically, I met quite a few casting directors along the way, as I'm sure you're familiar with doing that yourself. But yes, it's an interesting thing because I met some people who really kind of allowed me a window into the process. And I thought that that was so fascinating. And all I wanted then just was to kind of get involved. So I would ask people, hey, could I come in and be a reader? Hey, can I come in and assist for a session? And then it kind of got into a point where I was then assisting past the sessions and helping with tasks along the way in the casting process, and then kind of helping on episodes of different things. And it was just such a wonderful thing to get involved with while I was acting as well. So kind of they started to get integrated a bit. And then I got really interested in the behind the camera side of things from that whole experience as well. So I ended up going to film school in the UK, and that's where my whole UK journey began. So I studied directing over here, and that was a great time and also very informative for casting processes. And I also cast a bunch of short films while I was over here, so I had the free reign to be able to do that myself, which was a really good experience. And then going from that, basically, as soon as I graduated, I started casting full time. I just knew that that was my thing. Got in touch with casting directors back in Los Angeles again. And then I started working for a few different offices there. So got really integrated into that. It was very rigorous, sometimes working on 5 shows at once. So it was very intensive, but such a good way to learn and learn really quickly. So
For
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
happened.
I mean, I really like that you mentioned, you meet a lot of casting directors as an actor and you get that lens. Like, I would say, like, personally, I also know that, like, when I have those auditions, you see those same casting directors pop up a lot. And, like, there's like this indirect bond because, I mean, in the past, I know you would go in, like, in person for auditions, and I kind of started acting in the COVID era, so it was very much self-tapes. But like there's still that like indirect like bond you have when you're like the same casting director is seeing you like so many times. Like it's very interesting the relationship that actors have with casting directors, and you've embodied both, which is very interesting, perspective to have in life.
Well, it's interesting you say about this bond that actors and casting directors share, because I think as an actor, it's very easy to view a casting director almost like a god in a way, because they have all the power in your brain. But that's the thing is, then going on to the other side for me, it was so fascinating to just think, well, I'm just a person and I'm just trying to help this process come together. And we're all putting together these puzzle pieces, us with the directors and producers that we're working with. We're all just trying to find the best possible puzzle pieces so that we can create the full picture. And the actors who are part of this process, it's so hard to be the actor on the other side sometimes. So you need that casting director who has that empathy and who has that ability to see how much work goes into preparing just even one audition sometimes. So I think it's like that relationship of having the understanding between both, I think is so important, just for success on both sides. And yeah, and also realizing as well that half the time the decisions don't fully 100% come down to what the casting director thinks. Sometimes we get overridden by the producers or director, even though we really, really, really want someone. So it's about also, yeah, just maintaining that relationship with actors as well that you really love and kind of keeping that process going. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love that first of all. I think that's very wise. I guess in look, is that outlook? I feel like it's like peek in. I'm struggling for words right now, but like it's a very nice like insight. It's a very nice insight into the process. Um, yeah. Also, do you remember your first audition? Um, and I'll make like a little bit like a fun question because technically you could have a first audition as an actor, and second, you could also technically have a first time you were watching auditions as a casting director? So you could share a little both.
That is a great question. Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think about what my first audition would have been. I think my first audition for a professional project was probably something for Disney Channel, I'm gonna guess, just because of the age I was at. It was
Mhm.
probably something like, I don't know, like Shake It Up or a show like that that existed at that point. Yeah, I remember though the first few auditions I went on, I was very, very nervous to the point where sometimes like I would be so prepared, so prepared. But I would go into the room, I would give it my all, and I'd walk out and think, did I black out? Like, I don't remember anything that just happened. And then as you kind of get more experience, that starts to go away and you start to be more engaged and in the process and start going out of your head a little bit more and stop overthinking everything. So I feel like, yeah, the first few were interesting, but I remember one specifically that was quite early on. I think it was for a show like Criminal Minds or something like that. And I remember this character was like getting shot. And I was probably like 16 or 17 years old. And I like fell back against this wall and I had this sweater on and I got stuck to the wall in the audition. And someone had to like come unpin me at the end of the audition because I was stuck to the wall. And I remember being so embarrassed. So yes, just funny things like that. So yeah, and I just remember back in the day as well where we'd get 10 pages of lines to learn in a day. And that
God, yeah.
has stopped now because I think that's a bit short of time. So yeah, remember that very well. And
I mean,
then so
I bet the casting directors remember that moment as well with like the I bet those are the moments that they remember the most. Like, oh, do you remember the girl who got caught on the wall? Oh my God, I loved her. She was great.
yeah. And before that same audition, before getting caught on the wall, I remember I had been out for some Japanese food and I spilled miso soup all over myself. So I smelled like soup and I was getting caught to a wall. It was just a very successful day all around.
I love that.
And yeah, first auditions as an actual casting professional. I would say yeah, I think some of the ones I remember the best were for yeah, the show called Them, that was for Amazon. It was so wonderful to watch people bring such intense energy into the show. It was a very complex series of characters to cast, and I remember one audition specifically just blowing me away. Someone came in so committed that I was just thinking, wow, like this is what everyone should strive to do. And it just lit everyone up in the room. We were all so excited by this person. And I feel like, yeah, that was a very memorable moment for me because I can still picture the audition in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, that is I haven't watched the show. I've seen clips of it online, but it's a very like intense like storyline. It's heartbreaking. I've heard it's a little bit of a tearjerker at many times.
It's very, yeah, very much like a thriller in terms of how things proceed in the show. But it also pulls on a lot of realities in life and like difficult things that have happened in history. And yeah, it's a fascinating show. I mean, I worked on one season of it and there've been seasons since, but it was fascinating. Yeah, really good auditions.
Yeah. I have to watch it sometime. Like maybe on one of the days when I'm like feeling a little bit more emotional so I can really feel it.
Go
Yeah.
for it. Go for it, cry.
So, okay, you mentioned you went into Hollywood when you were like what, like 15-ish, like beginning middle of high school. I think it's really interesting to see at what ages most people start when they get in and then compare that to like what experiences they had. I think that's very interesting. Like going into Hollywood and working there for the first time, what stood out to you the most? Like was it different? Was it like alluring? Was it challenging?
Yeah, I mean, it was so different than being at high school, that's for sure. I mean, it was just a totally different world and being surrounded by a bunch of other kids as well who were striving to be like business professionals and speaking to adults in a very professional way and coming with all these materials prepared that they had, headshots and resumes and cutting together show reels and all this sort of stuff. I feel like it was a totally different way of thinking and presenting yourself to people. So it was fascinating, but it was very challenging, I think, especially juggling school among, all the acting opportunities as well, going back and forth from LA. I mean, it was a lot to kind of undertake at certain times, but so exciting. I just loved it. And so I actually ended up graduating high school early because I just really wanted to just sink my teeth in fully into the acting industry. So I dove in when I started. And then I continued for quite a few years there and then ended up thinking, okay, well, I want to do something different. I want to go to university. And then that's kind of where my viewpoint kind of shifted to behind the camera. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, personally, when I went in, I remember like I had my parents, we had no clue what was going on. And like I had no freaking idea what I was gonna get into. And I'm really glad I'm here, but I mean, I think back and I'm like, man, I knew nothing about what this was.
Yeah, I mean, no one does. And that's the thing as well, is like we've talked for a few years now, and I kind of have hopefully shared a few insights along the way that have been helpful as far as my sort of experiences have been, just to be able to kind of show you a little bit of what existed. But yeah, it's a whole game, isn't it, of navigating agents and managers and figuring out how those relationships work and figuring out how to keep in touch with casting directors and how to kind of balance everything else going on in life and not feel like you're missing out on life as just a teenager. So yeah,
Yeah, and I
interesting.
remember this one time that you were forgetting which audition it was, but you were helping me through one of them, and I remember getting a callback for it, and it was very much Nickelodeon, Disney, and I remember I had gone to I think two other coaches before like asked, "Hey, Lainey, can you help me?" Because I was like looking through both of their advices, and it was just so different, and I was like, "Oh no, oh no, I don't know what to do," and then I was like, I need help," and you're like, "Just be yourself. Just think about it. Just be yourself. Like just don't listen. Just what would you do? Think about it." And I just did it really naturally with you once, and we were recording and stuff, and that ended up being one of the like I guess styles, or I didn't record it professionally at the time, but we did it after in the same style, and that ended up being the one that my agent was like, "Snap, that's good," and then she's like tossed it in there, and as to what happened to it, what it was for, I don't know. But yeah.
Is always just being yourself. It really pays off, and kind of allowing that natural energy to flow through you is always a really good thing. And yeah, like coaching actors, that's, something I do on the side as well as casting. Like, I mean, whenever I have my spare time, I love to work directly with actors because it just gives me so much fulfillment to be able to have that engagement, especially when we're not doing things in the room nearly as much anymore. So like when I got to work with you, it was such a good experience to also work with someone who is doing different roles maybe than some of the adult actors that I work with, and kind of working in a different way and having different viewpoints on how to approach certain younger roles as well. And yeah, it's a really fulfilling thing for me.
Yeah, I love that, like the collaborative experience. And what you were mentioning earlier about like how Hollywood kind of it does teach you to kind of present yourself in a different way. Because I mean, I think back to like when I was making my first demo reel that I had to put on like Actors Access. Like I was like, what do I put? And like it was like we sent like I think like a bajillion tapes of everything I'd done, and my agent was like, no, honey, it's like 2 minutes. It's like 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, ooh, sorry.
It's so hard to look at yourself in that light as well and be like critical of your own performances. And so it is helpful to have that outside point of view sometimes, just to be like, no, let's cut that, add that. And then it just kind of comes together naturally. But
There's like this trust, right? Like where you're, oh, you're gonna make
yeah.
me look good. You're gonna help me, and I'm gonna just do my best and hope it turns out well.
Yeah, but also off of what you just said there, it's one thing to give the power to someone else and kind of allow them to guide that process, but it's another thing also just to stay firm and know yourself, because there are lots of times when I was a young actor, or even I've seen casting directors as well from my sort of experiences working with casting directors, trying to guide people in directions that maybe aren't authentic to them, and kind of giving advice on appearance or giving advice on how you present yourself or whatever it is on headshots, and it's just something that maybe doesn't feel like it matches for that actor. And if you feel like that's not representing you, you're never going to end up getting the roles or getting seen for the roles that you feel are actually fitting for you if everything is kind of off in terms of how it represents you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an
Yeah, I
interesting one.
completely agree too. Like it kind of teaches you like, hey, like you're gonna get a lot of suggestions, you're gonna get advice from a lot of people, and everyone has like a different takeaway or interpretation. But at the end of the day, like you gotta trust yourself to like your intuition to figure out what feels best for you. So with everything, take it with a pinch of salt as well.
Because while there are lots of lovely people in the industry, there's some not so lovely people. And so you kind of have to navigate those as well, and some really harsh critiques sometimes, or some really positive feedback. And you have to balance both of them and kind of find where it fits for you in the middle.
Yeah. And also like just on the topic of like just dealing with everyone in the industry and also having to have that relationship with yourself, it's like you're gonna do a lot of auditions at some point and not all of them are gonna yield great results. And sometimes you're gonna get a lot of tough turnaways, maybe you're at the very end and it's like something happened and it wasn't even about you. Like that's really important to keep in mind. That's like it's not about you. It's something way out of your control.
Yeah, this is what I say all the time when I speak to actors now, and having seen it from the casting perspective of so many different times where we get to the very end of a process with an actor and it goes a different way. And especially if the director is already leaning in the direction, or maybe in the room the director has said, "Oh yeah, this role's yours," and then it doesn't go their way. For us, that's a really heartbreaking thing to have to deal with. But yeah, it's one of those things as from our perspective, it is so challenging because sometimes it has to do with the actor's age or height or something that they physically can't change. Or it has to do with the fact that maybe the director just feels like you remind them of their sister and they just don't see you in that role or something like really specific like that. Or even just the fact that sometimes it's just like, well, I just, I really like this other person so much more because they bring like a comedy sort of feeling to this. Meanwhile, this other person feels heavier, and we need a little bit of relief in this film because it's quite sad. And so they end up going in that direction, even though we feel maybe it doesn't match the tone of the film. And so we kind of have this disagreement in our heads, but at the same time, we all have to kind of come to an agreement together. And sometimes we are all on the same page. But then for the actors who are behind the scenes waiting for this news, it's so challenging because you're thinking, well, why not? Like, have I heard anything? Am I not going to hear anything? And then you sometimes are waiting a very long time to hear anything. So we try our hardest to make sure that there's appropriate feedback given when we can, especially if someone's gone a long way. And just being able to kind of provide that comfort of knowing like you were really, really liked. We're keeping you in mind. There's going to be other roles that are coming up and you're going to be seen for them. And I think just that reassurance sometimes can make you feel so much better.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, back to what you're talking about. Like, yeah, there's so many reasons why, like, you might not be picked for a role. Like, I remember I had the first time I learned this was like, I was in like a Nickelodeon thing. You helped me. This is actually the audition, one of the auditions you helped me with at some point, I think. Actually, no, that was a different one. Never mind. Back up. I remember I was doing it and it was like this role that fit me really, really well. And I was so confident. I was like 12. This was like the beginning of my acting career. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it. And I was like, ooh, I'm going in for like the final callbacks and this is amazing. And then they're like, yeah, we couldn't give it to you. And my agent was like, she was such a trooper. She was on my side and she was like, well, why? Like you said she was perfect for the role. Why would you, why? And they were like, I know, we're really, really sorry, but she is a bit smaller compared to the other cast that we've already had. And she is a bit younger. Like she sounds younger too, because she is younger. I was like 2 years younger. So they were like, it's just not going to be a great fit. And they ended up, going with someone else. And the show was great. But I remember at the time, I was like, man, like I really loved this. Like, why? And I was sad. But I think as you
Yeah.
get older, it gets better, right?
It definitely gets better. And also the thing is I think the first few years of acting for a lot of people are very testing in that way. And not even just the first few years, like even as you continue on and say you're just not getting any like communication from casting offices and you just really don't know why things aren't going your way and it's happening repeatedly for anyone at any stage, that would be really challenging. So I think that just making sure from the casting end that we're always trying to communicate. And in England, it's become a lot more of a thing as well, where we let people know when they haven't gotten a role. And I think that that's quite a sad thing, but also a relief for a lot of people because at least they can kind of release it from their heads. Because sometimes you're waiting and waiting and thinking, oh, have they cast the role? Have they cast the role? And it just becomes this weight for a lot of people. So if we can just relieve a bit of the pressure so people can just move on mentally, that's always a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, that hasn't really happened much, I think, here or for the time that I've been acting, but honestly, like I was kind of like I feel like that kind of experience kind of trained me also to like not wait. I just like kind of like toss it to the side. I'm like, okay, if it comes back, it comes back. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that kind of I mean, and on one hand, it's like a lot of relief because then you're like, oh, I don't have to hold on to it anymore. On the other end, like I guess dealing with that a lot kind of also trains you. Okay, I gotta let go. I gotta let go and let it fly and see if it comes back. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, on the other hand, on the flip side of all of this, knowing how exciting it is to get a role and or just get really far in the process and have this kind of excitement building up within you and being the person now who gets to give that opportunity to someone is so nice. And knowing that someone's whole day or week or life might be changed by something, that is a really thrilling thing to be a part of. And helping build careers is a really awesome, awesome experience.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I do. Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. You mentioned that you were balancing high school at the time that you were pursuing such an amazing career, and I'm assuming you didn't do homeschooling, did you?
No, no. So for the first couple years of acting, I was just going back and forth from LA a lot. And then I ended up graduating high school when I was 16. So I ended up finishing very early, which was again a bit disorienting. I like didn't go to prom. I didn't have some of the usual experiences as some of my friends did, but I was pursuing what I loved, so it was a balance for sure. And keeping friendships with people who are still in the high school world and then making new friends who are in LA and just trying to manage that whole thing. That was the whole thing as well. But yeah, mainly my more time consuming work, like the series regular roles and things that I had that were shooting quite frequently and having a lot of material to memorize and work on, that was happening when I was already out of school, which was actually quite lucky for me because then I could have the time to actually dive into those. So yeah, it was a lucky kind of timing with that. My smaller roles started first while I was in school, so I would go up for a few days and shoot something, come back, or I flew to Michigan to shoot a film once for a little bit, but it was smaller chunks of time, so didn't make it as crazy to try to keep up with everything.
Yeah. I mean, still though, like during that year, like you appeared on, I guess, some of the most popular shows of that decade, even if they were like smaller roles. You appeared on Victorious, like, and later on you did Awesomeness TV, My Music, and then you just have to like pop back on campus, like, oh, I haven't met Ariana Grande. Like, I totally haven't. It's like, what was that like? Like, having to switch back and forth like that. And I guess teachers were also seeing you miss school and having to like make up work with you, like that that's a lot for a kid.
Yeah, that was interesting. I think I had a weird time of it, to be perfectly honest, because I think there were some people in school who didn't really know what to make of me because of me leading kind of almost like a Hannah Montana life. And it was funny because you've spoken to one of my friends, Beck, and she's one of my longest time people that I've known. We went through a very similar thing in high school. We went to the same school and we ended up kind of living a simultaneous life of her modeling and me acting and us both going back and forth from LA. So I feel like we were linked because of that experience pretty immediately. So yeah, it's an interesting one because I feel like yeah, like my mom and I had a lot of time back and forth together and stuff. So she in it with me as well. But yeah, it was challenging keeping up with everything and balancing, yeah, the teachers kind of demanding that I get all of this extra work done all the time because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't falling behind. And I had a very strict few teachers there who made me feel very bad for missing school. But at the same time, I was doing what I loved. And then afterward, they kind of went quiet as soon as I started doing better and better. So, yeah, served them. So, but yeah, it's all crazy.
For sure. I mean, I think I'm still in high school, so I don't know, life's definitely going to change. I think once I get into college and schedules are a bit more flexible because you don't take classes for like the entire day and you have a bit more free time, I'm sure. But I just yeah, it's so awkward sometimes when you have to miss school and they're like, "So what's it for?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm like filming something in Hollywood and I can't say what it is." And they're like, "Oh, oh, that's so cool." And then you come back and they're like confused when you like, when you like get the same grades as them like on tests and when you take the test on time and you didn't have to like get extensions and they're just like, "Oh." It's like not even like mean, it's just like like a phenomenon. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have some people who react in a really positive way, don't you? Where they're like, "Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, how cool. Tell me everything." And then you have some people who react in maybe not as supportive ways. I mean, I remember I had this teacher who she very kindly said to me that I was never going to be successful. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. So I did.
Snap, and you did. Yeah, I just like I think it's just so it honestly depends on the person, like what kind of philosophy they have towards achieving dreams and chasing dreams. Like I know that there are children who maybe had dreams and maybe they didn't pursue them. Like there's a lot of underlying reasons why many people react the way they do, but there's such a spectrum of reactions.
100%. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen a whole bunch as well. So
I
it's
do
just
have
nice to be able to speak to someone as well who's also, gone through similar things in this way. So
Yeah, yeah. So, on the topic of just acting, and obviously you had a great career acting, um, what were your favorite parts about being an actress?
when I was acting, my favorite thing was just getting a script for something that I really, really connected to in an emotional way. It could be something that's totally different from my life and something I have not experienced whatsoever before, but it's just a weird unspoken connection that you can't really explain as to why you're feeling this way with this character and feeling so emotionally connected. And I felt like it taught me how to be empathetic in a lot of situations, weirdly. I feel like having this kind of experience of diving into someone else's shoes, seeing other people's reactions to these situations, thinking about what it would be like to go through some really challenging things in life. I felt like that was a really powerful thing for me. And I feel like it helped me open my mind a lot as just a person. And I really loved that. And I specifically really just loved acting classes as well. I love the connections that you build in it, and I love the kind of feeling of just constantly growing and learning and developing. And I also, for me, my main thing always, like in terms of the work that I did lots of comedy. So for me, why I focused on the drama is because I got to do a lot more of that behind the scenes. But I think most of the work that I did was comedy, and it was so much fun. I loved the feeling of just getting to a stage of being absolutely so zany and so ridiculous sometimes and just like totally losing yourself in just absurdity. And I played a character for a long time on this show called MyMusic, and she was just out of this world zany. And I've never laughed so hard in my life as to be on those sets with those people as well. They were just a hilarious cast. And on Awesomeness TV as well, that was super fun. I got to do lots of different episodes with different people and be a bunch of very crazy characters from like a cave girl to someone leading a courtroom session who's a teenager. and then other ones where I'm just a normal teenage girl, but like the situations are absurd. So it was just a lot of, yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of kookiness. So I just thought the variety of experiences from like laughing so hard that you cry to just crying so hard that you can't stop because of a scene, I feel like that was such a good experience and it built so much, I think, internally for me. So.
You and I have like, I guess we're like twins or something, because I also still actually, I guess I do get a lot of comedy scripts for Nickelodeon and Disney. And I think some of my favorite moments were also like getting to be so wacky and crazy. And my mom was always the one. Like obviously when I would practice my scripts, I usually am alone at home sometimes because my parents work a lot. So I was just like, I always read the other person's lines too. And that's really interesting when you get an intense scene where people are arguing for drama, but also like kind of funny when I have to like record my own voice and like practice with myself for the comedy. And then when I get to my mom, like she and I just like burst out laughing every single time I have to do something really insane. And we watch it like clockwork. It's so funny.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a good time. I'm sure you have lots of fun outtakes that you can watch back.
Yeah, I think I still have them. Unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know.
Very fortunately, because in about 10 years, you'll look back on those and find it absolutely so lovely to watch this whole moment play out. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
still have loads of my old auditions.
oh goodness. Wait, those must be so fun to watch.
Oh yeah, some of them are, terrible, and some of them are good. And I'm like, okay, cool. I at least, I knew what I was doing in that moment. But some of them, I'm like, what was I thinking?
Oh my God. And for one of your birthdays at some point, someone should put together all of your past auditions into like a movie of Lainey, and you should just watch it while eating cake.
Don't give anyone ideas.
Shh, I didn't say that. No one heard it except for here.
Oh God.
So okay, I don't mean this in a mean way either. So when and why did you stop acting? Why would you say did you choose casting as the pathway that you wanted to take after you graduated college and you did all that stuff in England? Like, what was that point for you?
Yeah, so I think I hit a point where I knew that I would always, always love acting, and there's something in me that will always be excited by it. And maybe at some point in life I'll return to it. I mean, that's never something I'll rule out fully, but for me it was like I just knew that I wanted to be part of like the overall creative process a little bit more and have a little bit more hand in actually building part of a story. And I think part of acting was a lot felt like it was out of your hands at times. And I think for me, I wanted to have a little bit more, control over my own situation. And I like the kind of steadiness of creating and building a TV show, for example, and building a cast over time and kind of finding all of the people who fit together. And for films as well, I loved the idea of creating a world that just then exists on and people are going to watch that for years, hopefully. So I loved the idea of being more in that sort of behind the scenes creative role. Acting wise, I feel like for me, I still get a lot of fulfillment just from being able to coach actors, as I was saying before, like the feeling of working directly with people, running through scenes, really engaging the emotions and the process and using the training that I had, and also the feelings that I get from watching actors audition for me now. I feel like it gives me that excitement still, and it gives me that blend of emotions that I feel like I need as a creative person. But yeah, I think what really drove me there was, yeah, mainly just like lifestyle as well of just wanting that kind of creative stability in that way. Not that casting is stable either, but we'll pretend. But it's yeah, it's just a different channel for creativity for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And also like you're the world is big. There are so many things you can do in the entertainment industry, and I really like that, you're spreading your wings, flying around, seeing what's happening, and you're experimenting. You're discovering new areas, and I think that's just brilliant and very fun.
Yeah, and this has been my area for quite a few years now, and I feel very settled into it. So yeah, it's very nice to be on this side and also still, have these experiences as well of just getting to work directly with people who I know their experience and I want to be able to be there with them and help them through the process and also just feel very yeah, connected to both ends, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. I I really like that. And I'm really glad that you've found like your thing, your spark, your I say that a lot, and I think it means a million different things at this point. But yeah, I'm really glad you found your thing. Yeah. Um,
Thanks.
I'm actually very curious about this myself because I actually know nothing about how the other side works. Well, not nothing. I know a little bit, but not a lot. So I guess walk me through your typical, I guess, day as a casting director, if you could name. Like that's huge, first of all. And I'm curious, like, how many tapes do you see in a day? Like, how do you make some of your decisions? Like, what is the process behind casting, one of these huge films that you've or films or projects that you've done.
Yeah, well, since you said film, I'll go into a film process because that is a little bit easier to talk about than TV because TV is such a large scale and sometimes can last for months and months and months. So, yeah, I'll go onto the film side for now. But yeah, so when we first get a script for a film, usually the first thing that we do is we look through the entire script and we pull out every single character that exists in that script, whether they are a main character, supporting character, whether they only have, one line, whether they walk into a scene and don't say anything, whatever it is. We pick out every single role and we make a document of every single person and we write character descriptions for all of them. So anything that's detailed about them, whether it's any gender, male, female, non-binary, whether they are a certain ethnicity or race, whether they have certain things to do in the story, what their overall character arc is. It's whatever details really apply for that situation and are necessary to find that specific person. Sometimes it's very, very open, and that's quite fun too, because then we can kind of be very exploratory with our casting. So we create that document of all the different people who we need to find. Then we go into putting out breakdowns onto online casting platforms. So we take these character descriptions, we put them online, and then once they're up and live online, agents, managers, whoever it is who's professionals in the casting world can see what those character descriptions are, and then they suggest their clients for our review. And so sometimes we get only a couple hundred submissions. Sometimes we get 50 if it's a very, very specific role, and sometimes we get thousands if it's something that is very, very broad and open. So if it's like female, 20s, blonde hair, that's going to be a lot of people. So, yeah, it's just like it needs to be more specific than that a lot of the time for us to kind of narrow things down. But from there, we then look through all of the different suggestions from the agents, managers, and sometimes even actors as well. We'll open the character descriptions up so they can see it on their end, so that they can, also suggest themselves. And I love to be able to do that as well because it gives a very good wide pool, and it means that there's not a barrier for then those actors who don't have representation where they can also get involved. So we go through all the suggestions, we select the people who we feel are the best fit for those roles, and there can be up to, sometimes 80 roles in a film, 70 roles, whatever it is. So it's a lot to go through. So we kind of do it chunk by chunk. So like
And
6 roles, 7 roles.
yeah, and when you get those actor submissions, do you just get like a photo or do you get like the full like demographic, like age, height, name? Because I don't know what amount the amount of information you get.
Yeah, so we see their online acting profiles usually, which usually contains, yeah, their picture, maybe their show reel, maybe even like a self-tape that if they've uploaded that on their website. Also, we have all of their credits that they've like all the work they've done. We have, their height, we have maybe their background, lo lots of different details. It's just whatever the actor has inputted there. And usually the more details an actor has inputted, the more helpful for us. So yeah, we go through, we pick out people from there. Usually for the first round now, we request self-tapes. So we ask people to film themselves doing a certain audition sort of sides, which is different scenes that we send people. And then we ask them to return it to us by a certain date. Then we watch through all those tapes. Sometimes we're watching through hundreds of tapes a day. Sometimes if it's a less, pressurized time-wise project, we can just watch a certain role in a day. So maybe we're only watching 20 people or 30 people. So those days are a little bit easier sometimes. But yes, we watch through every single tape. Then we kind of narrow the process down. So we choose our favorite few people to then suggest onward to the producers or director. And we send their tapes on, send information about the actors and their availability to them as well. And then from there, we choose maybe some people to call back into the room. So we set up an in-person casting session from there, and we go through the same sort of process of maybe we have the same scenes, maybe we have different scenes for the character, and we go through all of that. Sometimes we need a second callback. Sometimes we need a chemistry read, which is two actors, three actors, four actors, depending on however much is needed, reading the roles in person together, so that they can kind of see how they mingle and how everyone's energy sort of comes together. And then it goes on from there to deciding who's right for the role. So then we decide on our person and we make an offer to the actor's agent. We make an offer to them of the financial offer as well as all the details of their deal. Then the agents and us usually we're negotiating for quite some time. Sometimes it's not. It's quite sometimes it's a bit shorter. And then once we can book that actor officially, we get them all set up and ready. We do a deal memo, which is just all their information, and then the process is settled for that one role. So for every single
Wow.
role, we have to go through that whole process. We also create our own budgets a lot of the time as well. So we go through how much budget the film or TV show has, and we kind of go through and divide it up amongst the characters that are going to appear. And those are projected numbers. So sometimes we need to go higher or lower for certain roles, depending on what's happening or who we're casting or what stage in the process it's at. So there's a lot of different parts of it. There's a lot that's creative and a lot that's administrative as well. Lots of paperwork, lots of databases and tracking different information. So it's very extensive in a way that I think maybe some people don't realize who aren't part of it. So yeah, it's a great thing, but it is very intense at times.
Wow. I think I need like an AI to go take notes for me or something. Like that was very wow. I just learned a lot. Man. So you're like in there for like what? Like definitely that's such a long process. Like for each character, you got to do so much intensive like work. There's so much thought behind your choices. And I mean, that's amazing. And you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that like sometimes you get overridden by producers. What does that look like?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because obviously if like the producers or the writer or the directors, whoever it is who is part of that creative process at the time, usually like the director has final say on a lot of things. But yeah, if we present, say we have our two top people and we really feel that this one person could be right, but this other person also is really, really good, but maybe not our favorite, then we'll kind of try and guide in the direction of the person we like the most, probably. But leave it open still so that they can still have their room to make their decision and fair and square. But sometimes, yeah, they come back and they say, you know what, we really, really want to go for this person. Or sometimes they even say, we don't like either of these people. Can you go back to the drawing board? And
Mm,
that's heartbreaking sometimes because we're like, because we love both these people. So yeah, it can be difficult at times, but a lot of the times, which has been quite lucky, is we find that we're on the same page with people, and so then we end up having quite a smooth process. But it is, yeah, a challenge when you have different mindsets, different opinions. Sometimes we'll have one opinion, the director has one opinion, and then the producers have a totally different one. So yeah, it's all a challenge to get everyone on the same page sometimes, and then other times it's a breeze. So
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I just that's Yeah, it's like I don't know. I could only imagine the amount of like attachment and the amount of like, oh my God, I'm so rooting for this one actor because they did so amazing. And like you're like in there and like, oh, you're rooting for all your actors, and then it's like, oh no, and it's like, oh, I have to now, either tell them they didn't get it or, not tell them anything at all, which is like, wow.
Yeah, but sometimes as well, it's the best thing when you can tell someone who has really, really worked so hard to be where they are in the process, and then you get to give them the best news, and they're absolutely thrilled. So, like that is really, really exciting and fulfilling as well.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, obviously for some of these huge films too, like you're giving some of these actors like the chance of like a lifetime. Like that is huge. And it's sometimes like that's a dream. That's the dream. That's actually, yeah, that is the dream for many people to, finally get that spotlight, get that chance to shine.
Yeah, especially when it comes to young actors as well, people who are, under 18 and casting them among people who might be a lot more experienced. It's this thing of you feel very excited for them and also slightly nervous for them because you're thinking, wow, your life is about to go in a new direction because of this experience. And when they get cast in that, it's a wonderful thing, but also they have to be prepared and their parents have to be prepared and their sort of whole life is going to start shifting in another direction because more opportunities will start coming their way a lot of the time. So I feel like that's a very exciting and strange thing for us as well, making sure we balance it out and making sure that a lot of the times young actors have supportive parents who have the kids' best interests in mind as well, and that the kids have balanced lives. I think that's a very important thing for young actors.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just reflecting on that. Yeah. Especially just like being a young actor myself. Like I know I've heard a lot of like the Hollywood horror stories, which we don't have to get into, because I've heard a lot of what happens with like child actors sometimes, like where maybe the family dynamic isn't as strong, or maybe their lives don't have as much balance. And I feel very fortunate, to have that amount of balance where I can value and pursue so many different passions, and I'm not really tied down to any of them, which in many ways makes me enjoy them a lot more. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it helps you become such a, stable and successful person in your own right because you're able to just then pursue things and not necessarily have the worries of the pressure from the outside world and like the industry kind of coming down on you in terms of a lot of like the stresses and in terms of also the pressures of just even the kind of more adult side of things in terms of like the party culture that exists in there and stuff. I think that that's something that I hope a lot of young actors stay away from for as long as humanly possible because it's good to keep your innocence and it's good to keep your childhood and it's good to keep feeling connected to just who you naturally are. And I feel like you've had a lot of good support in terms of all the different pursuits that you've had. And I think it obviously shows. So,
Oh, thank you, Lainey. I mean, obviously your parents did a great job raising you and giving you that life that you wanted to. So I'm really happy for the both of us.
yes, we are lucky. We're very lucky.
We are amazingly lucky. Amazingly? That's the first time I've used that, I think. Huh. So, okay, you most recently worked on 28 Years Later, big Sony film, and you posted, you were on a red carpet, your name's in the credits. It was like big Lainey Lipson, wow, wow, wow moment. Tell me what that felt like, reaching that level of like shabam, wham, blah. Like, I haven't watched the movies, I know nothing about it, but what was it like to cast for that?
Yeah, a great experience. Great experience. It was a very fun thing to be a part of in terms of casting creature performers to real humans and finding the balance and emotion in between that and the reality that exists within something that isn't necessarily reality and is quite dystopian. And so, yeah, it was a very, very fun process, and I worked with a great team on that one. And yeah, being able to just see it all come together as well with an audience of people who worked on the film was really, really satisfying. And seeing the actors again, watching their own performances, that was a lovely experience as well. And just getting to tell them how proud we are of what they've achieved because it was so satisfying to watch the scenes that honestly, I was watching that film still mouthing all the words from the auditions because I had heard them so many times that I just knew all the words half the time. But it was, yeah, it was a great experience, and yeah, it was, yeah, definitely one of the bigger projects that I've worked on so far. So it was,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for
very
sure.
satisfying.
Yeah. Was that definitely like, have you had crazier experiences casting movies than, a film with creatures and like crazy things going on? Like, were there any other crazy stories?
I've had lots of crazy stories throughout the years. I mean, I feel like I've cast a variety of things in terms of genre. So like things that existed in, space to things that existed in different worlds and different environments, things that exist in the real world but in different countries. Very, very different types of stuff. So yeah, things from like creatures to like on Jack Ryan casting lots of people who are, soldiers or military or things like that. So very different types of casting. So yeah, it's fascinating seeing all these different kinds of performers from someone like crawling on the ground, like screaming and making crazy sounds to someone who's just delivering a very straight performance. So
That's so funny. I want to see one of those tapes now. I want to do
uh,
it.
such a variety and it's so amazing because I feel like for those you just have to commit and it's very obvious when actors are holding back. So when you have a really great committed performance, it's like, yeah, like you walk in the room feeling so pumped up. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
very, very
a lesson
fun.
for actors. Don't hold back, just do it.
Just go for it. That's what we want. Yeah.
I think that level of like being able to just throw all your self-consciousness away is just so funny. Like you're just like, yep, I don't care. I'm gonna crawl on the floor now.
Exactly. And like even just for scenes that are more normal as well, we've had scenes where people are supposed to be like hysterically crying, but you could tell that when someone is holding themselves back or worried about looking weird when they're crying or like wiping their eyes or nose so they make sure they don't mess up their makeup, it just kind of takes you out of everything. And so you have some people who are really like going for it and just really emotional and there's snot coming down from their nose and tears everywhere and their makeup's running and everything's a mess. And that's some of the best stuff because it's what happens in real life.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure, for sure. I mean, I think also fake crying is such a hard thing. For me,
Yeah.
I just like I know that when I cry, it doesn't get ugly very fast. So
Yeah.
I'm like, cry, cry, cry. And I think the most funny tapes are like the ones that after all your mascara is running and after all the snot's dripped and you've wiped it clean and you're starting over, you can still see like the black underneath your eyes. And like is it clear? Like when you look at it, you're like, oh, they definitely did a retake of this.
Well, exactly what you just said, that's a really, really good point for anyone to hear is just like the fact that you don't naturally get to that stage quickly. That's fine too. If this scene is telling you to do one thing, then just do it how it's natural for you, because then otherwise you're going to be pushing and then that's not going to feel great to us or authentic to us. So I feel like if you escalate in whatever way is natural for you, then that's good. And sometimes it's a really powerful thing as well to see someone trying not to cry. So I think seeing someone kind of holding back until they break eventually, I think that's a really powerful way to go about things as well. But also just letting the emotion come out naturally, because if you don't let it come out naturally, it's just going to feel very forced, and you can tell pretty much immediately when something's not a real tear, not a real emotion. So
Yeah, and I think that, since you mentioned that you were an actor before, so you have that kind of insight into the acting process, but like in front of the camera versus behind the camera, like I think also like since you've probably had those auditions where like maybe you have struggled at some point to get those tears out, or maybe you were holding back at some point. I know I've had some of those auditions too. Like when you see that in another person, it's like, oh, I know what happened because I've done it before, or that kind of insight helps you a lot, I think.
Yeah, like I mean, we've had some really awesome actors audition for us where I know that they're fantastic. I know that they can do pretty much anything, but maybe if they just aren't connecting to the scenes that we've given them, sometimes their performance just falters a little bit, but you know it's not them, it's their connection to the role. So it's an interesting one because no matter how good of a performer someone might be, if they're not connecting to the lines or not connecting to the role, the performance isn't going to be there necessarily. So I understand that as well because there were some times where I'd read a script and I'd just cry reading it to myself the first time I saw it. And then sometimes I would, get one and I would be like, it literally says the words cry in here. That's not ever going to happen. I don't feel anything reading this. So you never know.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, I mean, has your career as a casting director changed maybe how you even view the industry? I mean, obviously you've sat in both seats, which is actually it might be more common than I think, but you're the first person that I've talked to that has sat in both seats. With all that insight, I mean, how's your view?
Yeah, so I would say my view of the industry has changed in the way that I realize that things are a lot less planned than they seem as an actor. Like I feel like on our side, there's a lot of stuff being figured out up until the very last minute sometimes. And I feel like there is a lot more that I would say is unknown for us even than I think actors would realize. I think the industry as a whole as well, I think that seeing it from both points of view, I feel that the industry still needs to move toward a lot more kindness and a lot more flexibility with different people. I think there's a whole expectation sometimes, generally across all parts of the industry, if whether you're a production assistant, whether you're a first AD, whether you're in casting, whatever it is, I feel like people need to stop treating every single thing like it's the most important thing in the world and that your personal life does not exist and that you have to throw away everything that matters to you in that moment just so you can focus on maybe that audition or maybe you can focus on what's going on that set. But I think there needs to be more of a value of who people are and their own life experiences and finding a bit more balance between industry life and personal life and respecting that divide a little bit more. I think that's a big thing. And also just showing more respect to people in terms of flexibility. So if an actor says, I can't come in person, I have to get childcare, or I can't come in person, I would have to leave school, or I would have to leave my job, and it's just not possible today. Um, Providing more options for people. I think that there needs to be a little bit more, yeah, just understanding in the industry. And I think that's something I saw before, but I understand it even more now. But I also feel like it's all connected. We're all connected, and that's the beauty of it. We're all working to create beautiful, amazing, memorable things, and hopefully people will go on and think about them. And some things people will never remember. So you also have to keep that in mind. It's all important, but it's important in terms of a relative sort of perspective. So people should just keep in mind that things don't, end at the end of a film or end of a TV show. Life goes on.
Yeah, for sure. I really like that. Yeah. Um, your career has clearly taught you a lot. Um, what what would be, I guess, if you could sum up some of the most important lessons and takeaways and insights that you've gained from being an acting and a casting director?
Whoa, that's a big question. Some of the most important insights would be, I would just say, as kind of on from the point that I just said, like just respecting other people and also taking into account other people's emotions along the way as well, and also constantly trying to drive yourself toward greater things, but not pushing yourself into a point where you're exhausting yourself. I feel like I'm a very big perfectionist, and I think I've learned how a little bit more to drive myself, but not drive myself into the ground. So that's been a huge personal lesson for me. But I would say, yeah, it's just the empathy for other people, the understanding, and the idea of like being excited about the creativity, being excited about the process of bringing people together, actually getting to know people along the way and giving people the time of day. And everyone is important in their own ways. And I think that that's a really important thing for the industry is just to make people feel that they're heard and seen. I think that's a very big thing.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I'm so glad that there are people in the industry like you who think that way and are ready to go, progress. I don't know what words are today, but to move things forward and improve and work, like that is just so beautiful. And I'm really looking forward to seeing all the things you're gonna do.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Me too with you. I feel like you have so many things ahead of you. Oh my gosh.
Okay, Lainey, I actually have one last question for you. Um, so I feel like it's kind of canon for when many young actors are starting to get in touch with like those casting director workshops that we go and we like learn and we workshop scripts together. I you probably have gone to some. I've gone to some. Um, I mean, I'm sure you've also led some of those workshops yourself. How did that feel to, be like sitting in the other side of the chair? I mean, I think the theme right now going on is a lot of like you were once behind the camera, once in front of the camera, now you're behind, you're in two different seats. How did that feel to see so many young actors and to finally be like, wow, I used to be one of those kids looking at the casting director like, ooh, ready to learn. Like, how does that feel?
It's totally surreal, to be honest. I mean, because it's one of those things where, yeah, as you just said, when I was younger, like I was doing casting director workshops all the time and meeting different people, getting different people's feedback and insight on different scenes. And I found it always very exciting and a really good thing for helping me learn and also just gain a comfort level with, you know, talking to different casting directors. Because I feel like for me, initially, as I was saying before, like when you were first starting out, you kind of see a casting director as like this higher power. And I feel like it's just a person who also is just on a different side of the creative process. And I feel like that helped me see that. But at the same time, it was always nerve-wracking. So while I was happy to be doing it, I was also always a little bit scared. But then doing it myself, I have to say I absolutely adore it because as I mentioned, I do acting coaching and stuff as well. And I studied directing. So I feel very comfortable with the whole directing process, with also getting into notes, also from all the casting experiences I have of being in the room with various directors. I feel like that's taught me a lot. So I feel really happy when I'm in a workshop setting. I love getting to meet new people, work with new people, and kind of just watch them watch each other and take in different performances. I feel like it's very invigorating and it gives me that in the room casting session feel that I don't get enough sometimes. And yeah, I feel like it's a very wild thing though when I sometimes look back on the room and everyone's sitting there listening to my Q&A and I'm thinking, wow, this is a switch of roles, isn't it? But yeah, it's a very satisfying experience to be able to kind of provide that insight to people and kind of open some doors to things that maybe some other people still keep shut. I feel like I want people to feel clued in and feel comfortable with the process. And I want people to always feel like a warm reception from someone who's working on the casting side, because it's not always the case, but you'd hope that everyone would be quite kind and open with their sort of presence as well. But
Oh, that is so sweet. That is amazing. I'm so glad that you are the one who is leading some of these sessions and making that you very clear to the young actors that this industry has been, sometimes it's nerve-wracking, sometimes it's really intense, a little bit scary sometimes, but there are people and there are so many warm moments and so much joy just waiting if you just take
yeah,
explore. It's amazing.
I just want people to learn. That's the main thing. I want them to walk away feeling like they learned something new. So,
Aw, yay! Okay, amazing, Lainey. Thank you so much for those thoughtful answers and advice. Now, at the end of every podcast, I like to play a game with my guests, and today we're playing Cast That Film. So, I'm gonna name a few fake movie plots. I haven't actually like proofed them to see if they already exist, but whatever. And a few protagonists for each. And as a casting director, I would like you to say who you'd cast for each of these protagonists. They can be celebrities that have seen them act before, or they could just be like, maybe who can't come to like a who can't come to mind like a name. You could name just the kind of person or the kind of actor you'd want to cast.
Okay, all right.
All right. Okay. Also, these don't have titles, so have fun coming up with titles. I'll also chip in a little bit. I'll see if I can come up with something.
Great.
Okay, so number one, a mystery drama film. I'll tell you the storyline. After their estranged father dies, three siblings have to return to their hometown to settle the estate, only to uncover a decades-old secret that could ruin their entire family. Yeah.
Oh, oh man. Okay. How old are these siblings? I need to know ages.
Well, I would assume they were like maybe in their 20s, honestly. Yeah, like early 20s-ish. And the characters we have Eva, the emotionally guarded older sibling, Ella, the middle sibling recovering from addiction, Emerald, the youngest sibling who appears happy on the outside but inside is barely able to hold it all together, and Sheriff Thomas, a woman their father had an affair with, who is connected to this dark secret. Who would you cast?
Oh man. Well, when I think about like early 20s actors, I think about a lot of the people who just have recently come off of shows like Sex Education and people who can play that sort of range of roles, like Emma Mackey. Like I feel like she could do a very good job in more of a mysterious role like that. And Amy Lou Wood, it's people in that sort
I
of
love
range.
her. Oh my God, Amy Lou Wood. She's so cool.
Yeah, she's great, fantastic. And I feel like yeah, people in that sort of genre, that age range, that generation, I feel like of people who are maybe a little bit older but play younger, I think could bring a interesting side of things as well, dealing with like the family drama side of things. And I think in terms of like an older character, you said that there's an older
Sheriff
man.
Thomas, the woman
Sheriff.
who their father
Yeah.
had an affair with.
Ooh, in that way, I would think of someone, maybe from the Stranger Things world, I'd pull out someone. I feel like you could have quite the cast there from Sex Education, Stranger Things. I feel like I'm not going specific with actors necessarily because it's very hypothetical here. But but yeah, I feel like you could come up with some good cast there. I feel like that's part of the process is always creating a list of people who are your like dream people as well.
For sure, yeah. I think honestly, I could see Winona Ryder or like Natalia Dyer like as some sheriff kicking butt kind of people.
100%, 100%, yeah.
Fun titles, fun titles. I
Mm, let's see. I don't know. I would say that's not my forte.
Me
That's
neither.
ask my sister. She's a TV writer, so.
Yeah, we'll ask Elle. Number two, we have a sci-fi thriller. We're not
Hmm.
gonna come up with a fun title because I don't know what to do. Okay, so the storyline: a few kids, teenagers, let's say, high schoolers, when toying around with AI, suddenly accidentally bring a bunch of robots to life. And while it's initially peaceful, soon these robots are trying to take over the world. Despite being less intelligent than these robots, these kids have to now stop the robots from taking over.
Ooh, interesting. All right. I would say my lead girl or something like that might be like a Jenna Ortega,
Ah!
someone who I might go.
Oh! Oh! She would so fit in. For the characters, we have Erin, a genius with a clean record and no social life. Penelope, a sassy, expert hacker focused on getting into college. I could see Janet Ortega in that one. Nelson, a skittish, nervous guy who's trying to be brave for once. Daryl, the AI experimenter who caused this whole mess. And Vex, the AI bot Daryl summoned.
Nice, nice. There's quite the cast there, quite the cast. I feel like if they could all be different ages, that would be quite fun. Because then if you had people who were earlier teenage years little bit older teenage years, and you could kind of create like a fun mishmash of people in there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. We'll make like what? Like Nelson the baby brother or something? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know if you've seen Adolescence, the Netflix series, but
Oh my God, I so want to watch it. Oh my God, it looks so good.
the young actor that they found is quite something, quite incredible. So I feel like I'd put him in anything, really.
Sure.
So, teenager, there you go. Just happens to be from England, so good luck.
He's phenomenal. I cannot believe that was his first performance. Like crazy.
Yeah, really striking. Really, really striking.
Yeah. He's on to the stars. I mean, he's amazing. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see what
Our
else he can do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Our last one is a little bit of a tone. Rom-com movie. Um, Storyline. Set in 1900s rural England, a young woman from a wealthy family meets a newly hired farmer who she initially despises. I said despites, I don't know, but falls head over heels with. The problem? Her parents won't let her marry below her class, and she has to make a decision. Marry him or marry the rich suitor her parents have asked to come over. I'll start with characters. Sophia, a proper young lady who has never broken a rule in her life and is very pretty. George, a poor farmer trying to look after his sick mother. Benjamin, the rich suitor Sophia's parents invited who is secretly gay. Ethan, Sophia's father who rules the house with an iron fist. And Emily, Sophia's mom, who married for money instead of love. Who would you cast?
Oh God, can I pick one? So fast. Ah, right. Ooh, I feel like I would love to see like Saoirse Ronan in a couple of more of like
Oh,
lighter hearted roles. And I feel like she has that comedic flair. She has that romantic flair as well. I feel like she's so fantastic with drama. So it would be nice to see her do something like a little bit light and then go back to her drama. But I feel like she'd do quite well in like leading a story and being that kind of defiant, stronger sort of woman as well in a story like that. Um, mm, I think the man with the iron fist. Oh, I just feel like whenever I think of a powerful man actor, think of someone like Ray Fiennes. I feel like yeah, he's just all powerful. But yeah, I feel like there's lots of people who could fit this. Lots of people who could fit it, but I can't imagine Ray Fiennes ever doing a rom-com in that way. So who knows? I feel like I'm yeah, I would really have to give that one a think because I feel like all of these ones have lots of characters and I would need to come up with my lists.
maybe I'll write some of these out and I'll have you cast for them. Maybe.
These are all just fun, silly, spur of the moment, totally unrealistic people. So yeah, great time.
Yeah. Well, Miss Lainey Lipson, you absolute superstar. It was so lovely to have you on the show today and to hear about your journey through acting to where you are now in casting. Thank you so, so much for being here. And to my listeners, I'll see you all next time on Life Lessons Unscripted.